Hey, here we are for one more episode of The Wrap.
59
Sheesh.
is the number.
It's crazy. It feels like just yesterday we turned 50.
Yeah, we're going to be turning 60 next week.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, so crazy, so crazy. Hey, I have to...
So what's the gift for 60th anniversary?
Boy, I don't know. Let me kind of look that up real quick, and you just like maybe we'll kind of just randomly ramble here. And we're also celebrating, not we, like as in the two of us, but there is a celebration coming up. I mean, even in fact, as people may be watching this in the moment, if they watch it on a Saturday, if they don't, then that's fine. We love you whenever you watch The Wrap. But it's my little Brylan's birthday on Saturday. On Saturday, big four. The big four.
You know,
not quite 60, but 4.
Okay, so if she and if anybody has actually talked with Brylan, you would swear she is 3 going on like
16?
10 or 15.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
She's a talker.
She's something else.
Yeah,
she is
4 years old. That doesn't seem old enough.
Yeah, she got.
And yet, I'm sure to you, it doesn't seem. It seems too old.
It seems like it's going too fast.
Yeah.
It is for all 3 of them. And somebody sent a church member sent a really sweet card this week. And, oh, Brylan, you're so full of life and such a fun little girl to be around. And I look at Chris, I go, they don't write me nice notes like that. They don't.
You've
Ryan,
not gotten a note saying you're a fun little girl to be around?
You're so spunky and full of life, Ryan. No. Just like... Preach shorter, Ryan. Please, thank you. I appreciate that. The 60th anniversary gift, by the way, it is the diamond.
Whoa! We went from cheap to expensive there.
We went from tinfoil to diamond just like that.
I was hoping it was something I could pick up at Dollar General. To be honest with you,
get
but
a fake diamond. Nobody will know. Just a fake diamond. So I'm really interested, though. By the way, now that we're on the 75th anniversary, is that platinum? Maybe.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Like why am I not getting anything here? Search 75th anniversary gift is. Oh, I was off. 70th is platinum.
Okay.
75th is also diamond as well, and gold.
Oh, so
you got to put them both together, I guess, at that point.
Wow, you get the whole ring. Then,
I don't get it. I don't get why there are 2 diamonds there, but you got to do diamond gold on 75th, platinum 70th. It has nothing to do at all with what we're talking about
not
today.
At all. Well, kind of. We could put this together because our story today takes place in a very rich dynasty.
Dallas?
Dynasty, no.
Dallas?
A very rich kingdom.
The kingdom of Persia. It sounds so opulent, doesn't it?
It does. Well,
By the way,
I mean, the book we're talking about, Esther, right? It opens with a 6-month-long banquet.
By the way, I mean, imagine that, right? Hey, we won't be here for half the year because we're gonna go party with the king.
Yeah,
and then after that,
they ended with a party.
They do like a week-long party, don't they? Like 6 months. We had to tack another week on to it.
Now that being said, I've read some of the commentaries on that. They called that 6-month banquet was kind of a meeting of the minds, they think, for an attack on Greece.
Okay.
So it was kind of a strategic planning seminar.
Strategic planning
summit,
seminar.
if you will.
That really sounds very.
Yes.
Anyway, by the way, I was just I let our vocab word of the day out there. If you didn't hear that, opulent.
Opulent.
If I told you this before, the kids watch a show called Dude Perfect, and they do overtime, and they do it like a vocab word, like of the day. Opulent, folks. Word of the day: opulent. And this is a great word, by the way, too. Ostentatiously. Ostentatiously rich and luxurious or lavish. And that would certainly describe the Persian kingdom of this time under King Xerxes. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie 300, watch it. Xerxes was a bad dude. I don't really know if he was that way in life, but I assume that he probably was not a super nice gentleman when it came to warfare.
Yeah, I mean, that was his biggest thrust was war.
Yeah, I mean, all of those guys, whether it be Assyrian, Babylonian, Persian, any of those things, those were massive and dominant kingdoms. Yeah. And you don't get that way by being Mr. Nice Guy. Back in that day, it was very bloody. It was brutal. King Xerxes also, too, and I do believe this.
Now, I don't believe the Persians were the brutalest of the brutal.
No.
But I think they were still brutal.
No, I think the Assyrians were pretty nasty. We'll talk about that in another episode. the Assyrian episode. Anyways, if you all kidding aside, if you watch the movie 300, I don't know if you've ever seen.
I've never seen the movie.
King Xerxes in that movie is depicted as a man who is very godlike, very arrogant, Xerxes in that movie, and I don't know about in real life, I haven't done enough study, believed to be a very tall man, a very large man, a very imposing man. But you get it in the movie 300 that they're very, very opulent. There's that word a second time. You had to use it twice. Just all kinds of gold, all kinds of jewelry, all kinds of everything.
Well, it fits with the account we see in the Bible, because that week-long extravaganza, after the 6-month-long extravaganza, they had gold goblets that were each uniquely
made.
made.
Like, you're sitting on couches that are made of like mother of pearl or something.
Something like that.
Porphyry.
No, I think that was the floor that was mother of pearl.
I don't know. That's insane.
Like, it was insane.
Yeah. Let's just suffice it to say
and he
that,
did it just to show off.
Well, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you if you had that kind of wealth?
Got it, flaunt it, right?
And you were living a worldly life, be like, yeah, you flaunt it. If you got it, flaunt it. Exactly. So we are set up in this story of it being like a very lavish kingdom. So here's the deal. Everything on Sunday revolved around, my guy here again was preaching, so we're going to just kind of rely on him. I'm going to question you a little bit, interview you a little bit about Esther. But the whole thought, like, we're not going to bury the lead here at all. The whole thought of the morning was all about the faith and the action of 2 + 1.
Right.
Understand those two people are Esther herself, Mordecai, who really is the man behind the scenes that's getting everything done.
Right.
And there's also another one who behind the scenes who's ultimately sovereign and working in all things, God himself. Right. By the way, when I think of that title, The Faith and Action of 2 + 1, you remember those cheesy 80 commercials where it's like, the faith and action of 2 + 1, like they jump like that? we totally need to have like a song like that. Don't you think it feels like that?
Yes, I can see that.
It's just like one of the cheesy.
It's like a Wrigley's gum commercial or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just has that cheesiness to it. But I
Double
love
mint gum.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that cheesiness.
Yeah.
I'm glad you knew what I was talking about, where that looked really, it probably looked really funky anyways, but at least you were like with me and tracking like,
yes.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
So what, in your time of studying, and then you preach on Sunday and you talk about Esther, and it's, that's a longish book, so it's like hard, like how do you boil all of that book down to just a moment in time or a phrase? And like, what did you really take away from the story of Esther?
Yeah. I think the takeaway that I always get from Esther in reading it, and interestingly enough, it's one of the 2 books of the Bible that doesn't mention God at all.
Yes.
But you see God at work so much in this book.
And the other one is?
Song of Solomon.
Song of Solomon. Yep.
And it's just a love story. So
it's just a love story. So. But yes.
But yeah, so I think what Mordecai tells Esther kind of sums up the book is, who knows, maybe you've been put here for such a time as this.
Yeah.
And it really brings out the sovereignty and the plan that God works out.
Yeah.
And we see the faith of Mordecai coming through when Mordecai says, regardless of what you decide, God's will is going to be done. Basically is what he says. He doesn't say God's will, but he says,
hey, sister, do what I tell you to do, but if you don't, somebody else will.
Someone's going to do it, but it won't fare well for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You cut yourself out of this plan.
You think that you might be able to hide here in the palace and hide your identity, and it's going to come out. It always comes out. I'm reminded of the story of Moses in Egypt. And I don't know. I think I was watching the movie, and again, it's not like a great depiction of the whole Egyptian Exodus kind of thing, but I think it's called Exodus, Gods and Kings. Christian Bale is in it. It's supposed to be some really poor depiction of like all that stuff. But one thing that really struck me in that was kind of this attempt of Moses to keep quiet his true identity. And obviously his sister knew about it, but like not many other people probably knew about that. And I just think about that the same way with Esther, is like, Mordecai's like, fine, go ahead, but it always finds you out. Your identity will always come true. But I like that line really is kind of like the line of Esther, and it's like, that's a made for Hollywood kind of line.
Yeah. Well, and I brought out, I was talking this Sunday how it really feels like a movie plot.
Yeah.
Like it could be on the Hallmark Channel. I swear it could.
Yeah.
You know.
It's one of those like mystery thriller type movies where like you don't get to see the full picture until the very end, and then you're like,
That's how that came together.
like I should have seen this all the way along the way that this was going to happen. And it's kind of hard because guess what? We know the book of Esther really well. I've probably heard umpteen sermons on it, and so we kind of lose a little bit of the wonder of it and a little bit of the surprise of it. But if you could just like imagine living that in the moment and having everything erased from your mind that you know about it, and you're just like the whole way along you're like, this does not look good.
Can you imagine Mordecai and how he felt when it came out that Haman was trying to kill him, and Haman was the one who had to parade him through town and celebrate him?
That's such a great moment.
Haman was also killed with the same instrument that he was going to kill Mordecai. And thinking of how Mordecai felt when I'm sure he knew what happened, right? How would he have felt that, like, whoa,
yeah,
God's looking out for me.
It's heavy. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I'm not going to say okay, Mordecai was a stand-up guy that like when Haman was impaled on that, that stick or hung on the gallows, like he was like, oh, I really hate to see it. There might have been a little bit of him been like, oh boy,
I got to admit, I'd been like,
sorry about you.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have been feeling
sorry
for my
sorry,
boy
not
Haman.
sorry.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a lot of emotion in that. That like that was made for me.
That realization of my life's been spared.
Yeah. Which again, we do this like every single week, but you can't miss in that. Like there's certainly a bit of poetic justice to someone wanting to kill and eradicate the Jews, specifically Mordecai. He just has it out for Mordecai. And in the end, what the instrument of death that was made for him, somebody takes his place.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, hello. I mean, don't miss what that's all about. Now, obviously, it breaks down at a certain point because Haman is a nasty, vile, despicable guy who is full of sin and hatred and envy.
Not to mention a lot of, there's one arrogant man.
Geesh. But then you have Jesus himself who
didn't deserve it.
Didn't in any sense deserve this instrument of death, and yet he took our place. He took our place.
Yeah.
That was an instrument of death that was made and tailored for us,
right?
And for our sinfulness. And Jesus says, "I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll go for that." Yeah. So you can't miss that either in the story of Esther. And again, like you said, God's name is not mentioned once, but his fingerprints are all over it. Especially, I think, in that moment there where, again, like that was heavy for Mordecai and emotional to be like, that could have been me.
Yeah.
That probably should have been me. And through all of these, especially this volume that we've been going through, Jonah, Daniel, Esther. Next week we talk about Nehemiah. It's uncanny to me how all of them are connected together through that theme and that thread of sovereignty of God. And one phrase that I've continued to hear over and over again, 2 words. And it's a phrase that's actually used in some form or fashion several times throughout the whole Bible. But God.
Yeah.
And so that moment where it seems like we're at the end, we're up against the ropes, and there is no other hope or possibility of escape but God.
Well, and I'm sure that's the way Esther felt when Mordecai sends her this decree, a decree which apparently in that Persian Empire could not be erased. Like once it was in stone. Like, here you go. This is happening. I mean, even when the king found out about it, he didn't take care. He just said, "Well, you can fight back." So I'm sure when Esther first saw that, it looked pretty hopeless. Yeah. Right? Like, what am I going to do? If I show myself to the king and he's not wanting to see me and doesn't extend that gold scepter, I'm dead meat.
But what Mordecai is making the point of, and I think this is a great faith point, and we always have to take the moments. It's not like we try to import ourselves in the story, but of so many stories in the Old Testament, like this one is just so intriguing. It just draws us in. We're like, oh. But at the end of the day, we have to ask, okay, so what is being communicated here?
Why is it here?
Yeah, why is that there? And I think that's a great point because Mordecai is saying to Esther, here's the deal. You can go and exhibit faith and go before the king and try to save your people and die. Or you know what the other option is? You're going to die.
Yeah.
So, I certainly don't think we can always just, especially in our Western American culture, I know a lot of people for a long time have said, you're not going to have to worry about dying for your faith or really taking a big stand for your faith. And I'm just like, you know what? I feel like we're getting closer and closer to that. I'm not saying that tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to be in a position where you might die for your faith, but like the reality is closer than it has been for a long time.
Well, we're already to the point where, depending on what you're making a stand on, you could be facing vocational death. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could be
reputation, suicide, and death. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you may still be alive,
influence
but
and reputation.
You're risking a lot.
And yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's just a great moment there when Mordecai says that. Like you can do what you're going to do, Esther. But he's basically saying, to exhibit faith, the outcome is kind of the same either way. So wouldn't you rather stand in your faith and stand on your faith rather than like just cowering and because okay, two options here. Potential death on one hand, certain death on the other.
Right.
It's like, well, you know what? Potential death does sound a whole lot nicer than certain, absolute 100%.
When put up against that,
Yes, and I think sometimes we have to weigh those things, when it comes to the expression of our faith, is like, here's the option. So you don't stand on your faith and don't stand for your faith and don't stand for anything, and you just kind of, you stand for nothing, and you lose your faith influence, you lose any credibility you have. Or on the other hand, you take a stand for your faith on what you think is right, morally right, you stand on your principles, and you face a loss of your reputation. And it's like, okay, so kind of not be...
Yeah.
Yes.
Or even face physical death or spiritual.
Yeah.
Temporal.
Yeah.
Or eternity.
And this is like, I think we have to be really real. It's not like I'm trying to say, hey, pick the lesser of two evils. No, like one of these is really evil, the other one is not.
Right.
And like you said, temporarily, it may be bad.
Yeah.
But it is not, like you said, physical death, bad.
Yeah.
Eternal separation.
Really bad.
From God, really bad.
That's not a place you want to be.
Not at all. That's why Paul, I think, a lot of times, especially says in his letters, is like, that's fine. Or not really just Paul, but all those guys in especially the early part of the church were kind of like, okay, we understand that we're going to experience some suffering and some trials and some difficulties and some problems right now. And that's what Paul says. And now I'm verging on Paul. And he says, but that suffering is light and momentary.
Pales in comparison.
Comparison to all of eternity.
Yeah.
And again, the reality is the options are either your physical death or, like you said, your eternal and spiritual death.
Right.
And I think we have a hard time, even in the church grasping hold of that. But certainly I think the world at large is like not even thinking on that plane.
Right.
And it's not like we go running out to people and be like, do you want to die physically or eternally? Like, I'm not sure there's a really great way to frame things, but like I think there are ways to get in that conversation and really have people begin to think about the ramifications of what they do.
Yeah, what's it to gain the whole world and lose your soul, right?
Absolutely, it's the same thing. That's what Jesus said. That's kind of the path we're on right now, what we're talking about. And so, just that line again, you go back to it, is who knows that you have been chosen and placed here for just the time. And again, now we on this side of everything, and this side of the story, and this side of Christ and reading the Bible, it's like we know it's gonna. But she didn't. She had no clue.
She had no idea what the outcome's going to be.
But she stood in faith.
Yeah.
And it's like I say, it's just so interesting to me, like all these stories that we're talking about, how they all have the same ring to them of, again, the whole point of the volume we're talking about is perfect timing.
Yeah.
Every one of these stories are just an element of
Yeah.
like, oh, just so happened. Oh, that's coincidence.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, at the last,
Well,
at the midnight
and you
hour.
think of like
Or the 11th hour.
how she even got to that point. You know, I'm sure that would have been on her mind when he said, maybe you've been put here for such a time as this. I mean, she's a Jewish orphan.
Yeah.
Who happened to win a beauty contest.
No business being in the
Exactly.
highest place of the Persian Empire, but
and,
she is.
You know, and when we think of, you know, they searched the kingdom for, it was a vast kingdom. There were a lot of people they went through.
A lot of players, a lot of
every region
contestants in that beauty pageant.
Yeah.
And he falls in love with her.
Yeah.
But like, isn't that just like God though? I mean, I'm kind of a week ahead here, and I'm looking at Nehemiah. And where does Nehemiah find himself? Do you remember the story?
He finds himself in the Persian Empire.
Cupbearer to the
to the king.
Artaxerxes. That's a pretty high position, by the way. That's not just...
Which is Xerxes' son, correct?
Xerxes' son.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this way. Most of us think when we're talking about being a cupbearer, that serving the king is Kool-Aid. It's so much more than that. That's a high position of influence. But you just kind of start tracing the steps back, and you're like, oh, Nehemiah was pretty high up in the court, in the palace. Oh, Esther was pretty high in the palace. Oh, Daniel was pretty high in the palace. Oh, by the way, so were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. By the way, Joseph was really high in a position. It's just like, does it just seem like that's a little too coincidental?
Well, and I think, you know, we talk about why is Esther in the book? Why is it in the Bible? Mm-hmm. And through all of that, you're seeing God's plan for redemption. You know, we're seeing that little short glimpse of God's sovereignty, but it's just part of that larger view of Jesus is coming. And nothing that comes along is going to keep him from coming.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just like, and I'm convinced, and we've talked about this a little bit this week, and just me preparing, is like Esther is a thread that continues beyond Esther. She continues into Nehemiah, and I think she even has some connections and some things and some pull that she has to be able to get Nehemiah where he's at. But all of them, all the stories are this, and especially all these stories we've been talking about, are God places people where he wants them. And again, it's not like you're always going to end up in the palace.
Right.
But wherever he has placed you, he's placed you there for a specific reason. Right. Figure out what the purpose is and live out.
God didn't just take a song and go,
like I really,
all right,
truly,
I think that works.
Yep, oh, well, that's good. You know, like I really believe there is a reason that I'm in Connersville, Indiana.
Yeah.
You know, and some days it's easier to see that, and some days it's really hard.
Some days you're like,
really,
God, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Like, what's going on here? I don't feel like I'm making any sort of difference in anything that's going on here. But again, it goes back to the story of Daniel. It's like Daniel, we sometimes think of as like heroic. Like he was just for over 70 years of his life very faithful. Yeah, that has a massive impact. Just sometimes the longevity of being somewhere is like, wow, that speaks volumes as well. So, you know, I think, again, so much to take away from the story of Esther. But we've talked about some of these things today that I think are really important that we pull out of the story and say, these mean a lot for our life today.
So the question would be, where has God placed you? Right?
Exactly. And not only that, I would say along with that, going back to our original point of faith in action of 2 + 1, I'm not going to do the jump this time, is where has God placed you and where has God asked you to exercise faith? Yeah. That's a really tough question because I believe that probably...
going to or you're not?
Exactly. Most people are watching today are like, I know what God's calling me to, but I'm just not sure if I want to do it or not. That's the choice you have to make. Esther made it. Do we make it? And again, not all the stories are like Esther, and like Esther made that call and it worked out. It doesn't always work out really well, you know? But the call is not for us to be right and for us to always experience success. The call is for us to be faithful and obedient and trusting in all things. And so we hope that is helpful to you. I just realized that I've come in over here and I'm just been off to the side of the screen. So hopefully
that's okay. We've got good graphic area.
Yeah. Hope that's helpful to you to really think through what it means and how important it is for us to be faithful. And not just faithful, like there's a really important word there too, action. You got to take it.
You can say you're faithful all you want.
take action.
What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And so that'll carry over next week as we talk about our boy Nehemiah. That's a guy who took action. Holy cow, what a story that is.
Yeah.
And really next week, we've kind of talked about this, that will kind of end and Nehemiah really is the end of kind of the Old Testament. That's post-exile. That's it.
We're going to go in a little bit of Isaiah for a
little bit of
weeks,
Isaiah, kind of do a little bit of a detour path there. That will still certainly be Old Testament, but really for all intents and purposes, we've come to the end of the Old Testament. So if you've been with us and watched many of these episodes, kudos to you. You've made it through the Old Testament, and it really was a super great journey. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, same here.
And so it's been fun, but we like to say, hope you continue to join us, that you join us next week and beyond. As we always say, at any time, you're welcome to join physically here if you don't have a church to go to.
Share this video
as we go through this Bible journey, or join us via video. If you have somewhere else that you call home church, but you're like, hey, I'd like to get a little bit more out of my faith, then hopefully you catch a little nugget here and there. We're not saying
we can be supplemental.
Yes, we're okay being supplements. So with all that being said, guys, again, thankful and grateful that you would be here with us today, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.